Have you ever just stopped and wondered what really makes you you? Why are some of us total social butterflies and others are more reserved? Or why do some people seem to thrive under pressure while others just don't? Well, today we're going to peel back the layers and get right into the deep biological roots of our personality to see what's actually going on under the hood.
For forever, people have been arguing about this. Are we born a certain way, or are we shaped by our life experiences? But what if that's the wrong question altogether? Modern psychology is telling us it's not a fight between nature or nurture. It's really more of a complex dance between the two. The idea is that our biology provides the blueprint, but our environment is what actually helps build the house.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll start with our genes, the genetic blueprint. Then we'll move into the brain's command center. After that, we'll explore our inner chemistry. And finally, we'll take a look at the role our physical body plays in all of this. All right, let's start at the very beginning with our genetic blueprint. This is the fundamental code that defines so much about us. It's the raw material that gets passed down through generations, and it really serves as the foundation for our entire personality. Okay, so the key thing to get here is that heredity is the starting point. Think of it like a collection of raw ingredients you're giving to cook with. Things like intelligence, your physique, your basic temperament. Then, your life experiences are like the chef that takes all those ingredients and shapes them into your unique personality. But the big question is, how do scientists actually prove that our genes are so important? Well, to untangle all of this, scientists have this perfect natural experiment, twin studies. See, by comparing identical twins, who are basically genetic copies of each other, with fraternal twins, who share about half their genes just like any other siblings, researchers can start to isolate the influence of our DNA. If a trait is way more similar in identical twins than in fraternal ones, that's a huge clue that there's a strong genetic component. And wow, the findings from these studies are seriously compelling. They consistently show that identical twins are way more alike in their personalities than fraternal twins are. And this is true even when they're raised in completely different homes. This is just powerful, powerful evidence that our genes don't just affect our looks, but they also predispose us to things like how sociable we're going to be. So just how much influence are we talking about here? Well, using some pretty sophisticated statistical methods, like one called multiple abstract variance analysis, or MAVA, which helps separate out genes from environment, researchers estimate that for traits like assertiveness and even intelligence, our genes can account for a massive 65 to 70% of the variation between people. I mean, that is just staggering when you think about it. So if our genes are the blueprint, then you can think of our brain as the command center where that genetic code is actually put into action. The physical structure and the day-to-day activity going on in our brains have a huge impact on our personality. A really key concept here is something called cortical arousal. This is basically the level of buzz or electrical activity happening in your brain's cortex. The psychologist Hans Eysenck had this theory that our natural baseline level of this arousal is directly tied to one of the biggest personality traits there is, introversion versus extroversion. And this explains the difference perfectly. See, introverts, contrary to what a lot of people think, don't just lack social skills. Their brains are naturally over-aroused. They avoid loud parties not because they're shy, but because they're trying to keep their already buzzing brains from getting totally overwhelmed. Extroverts, they're the exact opposite. Their brains are naturally under-aroused, so they're always seeking out stimulation, parties, loud music, new people, to get their arousal up to a more comfortable level. And get this, there's even some pretty wild physical proof for this. In the famous lemon drop test, researchers put a single drop of lemon juice on people's tongues. And what they found was that introverts produce almost twice as much saliva as extroverts do. It's a direct, measurable sign of just how sensitive their nervous systems are. Now, it's not just about how sociable we are. It's also about our emotions. Deep inside our brain, we have the limbic system, sometimes called the visceral brain. This is our emotional engine room, controlling our whole fight-or-flight response. Eysenck's theory was that people who are high in the trait of neuroticism have a more sensitive limbic system. Their activation threshold is lower, which means it takes a lot less stress to trigger a big emotional reaction. Okay, so beyond the brain's wiring, our personality is also being constantly influenced by this shifting cocktail of chemical messengers. This is where our endocrine system and hormones come into play. They have a huge role in regulating our mood, our energy levels, and our reactions from moment to moment. The key to this whole system is something called homeostasis.
Basically, it's your body's constant effort to keep its internal environment stable and balanced. When everything is steady, we tend to feel good and act in a pretty controlled way. But the second that balance gets disrupted, our personality can be directly affected.
And the impact of this chemical balance is incredibly direct. For example, studies have linked chronic high blood pressure with higher levels of neuroticism. A simple vitamin B deficiency can show up as depression. Even a temporary lack of oxygen, maybe from an asthma attack, can cause emotional outbursts. It just goes to show how much our inner state can dictate our outer personality. Researchers have also found potential links for other major traits. Take Eysenk's third dimension, psychoticism, which is characterized by traits like being tough-minded and non-conforming. It's thought to have a biological basis in the levels of certain hormones, like testosterone, and also enzymes like monoamine oxidase, or MAO, which helps regulate neurotransmitters in the brain. All right, finally, let's talk about the most visible part of our biology, our physical bodies. Now, this might seem a little superficial, but our physical structure and our appearance can have both direct and indirect effects on the person we become. Some of the earliest theorists, like a guy named Sheldon, proposed a really direct link between body type, or what he called a soma type, and your temperament. He basically said that muscular people were more assertive, rounder people were more relaxed, and slender people were more restrained. Now, today, psychology sees these direct links as way too simplistic, but it was an important first attempt to scientifically connect our physical form with our inner temperament. A much more modern and accepted view is that our physical appearance shapes our personality indirectly. Think about it. The way the world responds to us, based on things like attractiveness, influences our social interactions, the opportunities we get, and ultimately, how we see ourselves. This whole social feedback loop then helps mold our personality over time. So, when you put all these different pieces together, what does it all mean? Well, for one, it tells us that the old nature versus nurture debate is pretty much over. It's not one or the other, it's a dynamic interaction. Our genes lay the foundation. Our brain's unique wiring, like its baseline arousal levels, nudges us towards certain behaviors. And all of that is constantly being influenced by our inner chemistry and even our physical body. It's this complex, multi-layered biological system that gives rise to the unique person you are. And that leaves us with one final and really important question to think about. If our biology sets the stage for us, giving us our predispositions, our sensitivities, our basic temperament, then how much of our personality is truly ours to write? It's a pretty profound thought about where biology ends and where our own story begins.